Hello everyone, welcome. What is deep sleep? An important subject. Deep sleep is an objectless state in which man enjoys peace, no body, no mind, and no world. He is thrown back into nature. However, from its own viewpoint, which is the real viewpoint, deep sleep is pure consciousness. This is why deep sleep is a tricky subject. We need to analyze deep sleep from two perspectives, one from the waking state and one from the deep sleep itself. Let us analyze deep sleep from the perspective of the waking state first. Deep sleep, from the perspective of the waking state, is the not dual experience of peace or ananda, where you can raise no questions at all. That peace, ananda, however, is a reflection of ananda, negative bliss. That's why it's called not dual, not non-dual. There is still an element of duality in deep sleep because duality is dormant and rises again as the mind to experience the apparent world. Pure consciousness or reality or Brahman is existence without any dormancy or any seeds of objects or world or mind. So, deep sleep is not a permanent enlightened state and it doesn't lead to one either. In deep sleep, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, death and dissolution, there is only temporary seeming non-duality, seeming Advaitam, which is subject to arrival and a departure. Pure non-duality is permanent, not subject to arrival or departure. Deep sleep state, therefore, is the state of not duality or absence of duality, not non-duality. And any experience that begins and ends is not you. You can experience who you are in deep sleep, but you cannot know or realize what you are in deep sleep or in any experience for that matter. What is missing? Knowledge. And remember, knowledge is awareness in the form of a firm, constant, continuous, and non-contradictory thought in the intellect or buddhi. Deep sleep gives us the clue not to go astray in waking state about what Brahman is or not. To help you understand Brahman right, nature has given you deep sleep. That's why deep sleep state is extremely important to understand. Deep sleep, as mentioned earlier, is not Brahman, however. Brahman knowledge exists when you see the world of objects and selves, not when you are unaware of the world. If deep sleep continued unbroken, it would be called Brahman, yes, but it doesn't. Deep sleep is the absence of duality. Brahman is the knowledge of the absence of duality. Bringing the awareness of deep sleep into the waking state is knowledge, enlightenment. The true nature of deep sleep state can be understood by examining its three positive aspects. 1. We do not cease to exist. That means it is a state of unconditioned being. 2. On waking, we are conscious of having slept soundly, though that absence, as such, can never be experienced in itself. That means the principle of consciousness remains without its seeming to assume the duality of a conscious subject and its object. This reinforces that our presence is conscious and consciousness is present. You are conscious of the no-thingness or the absence of objects. 3. We always look forward to the enjoyment associated with deep sleep. That means deep sleep from its own standpoint is the state of peace or self-contentment. These three aspects recognize the fact that the state of not duality, which is deep sleep, continues always as the background of duality. Dream and waking states obviously emerge from deep sleep. It's our experience. Deep sleep as the link between the waker and the dreamer may also be understood as the switching from the waker's body, which is a thought, to the dreamer's body, which is another thought. Requires a small gap, and that gap is a deep sleep state which has to be the substratum of both. This is also clear in the waking state, as the interval between the thoughts is nothing but deep sleep. Thus, the interval between two thoughts or mentations, if rightly understood, is also a key to the absolute truth. You get cured of your pain and disease, no matter how intense is your pain, immediately when you get into deep sleep, and you begin to suffer again when you come back to the waking state. Isn't it right? So, if you can bring something from deep sleep to bear upon the waking state, certainly the suffering will be relieved in the waking state also. Simple. And what is that? The infinity ananda aspect of deep sleep. You exist and you are aware. You also know that you are aware that you are aware. You are existence consciousness. The infinity ananda aspect is missing. So, if you can bring that aspect from the deep sleep state to the waking state, then your existence, consciousness, ananda, which equals Brahman. When you identify yourself with the body as in waking, you see gross objects. When in subtle body or in mental plane as in dream, you see objects equally subtle. In the absence of identification as in deep sleep, you see nothing. So, the objects seen bear a relation to the state of the seer. If you are identified with Brahman or pure consciousness, you see Brahman in everyone and in everything. There will be none other than Brahman. All is one big family. The best clue given to us by the unseen to understand one's own real nature is deep sleep state. Well, we have looked at the deep sleep state from the perspective of the waking state. Let us now look at it from its own perspective. This is an important analysis and is very subtle to understand. Deep sleep, from its own perspective, cannot be called a state of mind because the mind does not exist or even seem to exist in deep sleep. What exists in deep sleep is only ourselves. So, deep sleep is actually the state of pure consciousness, and as such, it is the only real state. This one real state seems to be interrupted by the appearance of two other states called waking and dream. But this seeming interruption does not occur in the view of pure consciousness, but only in the view of ourselves as this mind. In other words, when we rise as the mind in either waking or dream, our one real state seems to have been divided into three states, in two of which we experience ourselves as this mind and body, and in one of which we do not experience anything other than ourselves, not even our mind. Therefore, what happens to our mind in deep sleep is that it simply does not appear at all. However, from the perspective of our mind in waking state, it is not possible for us to conceive of deep sleep state in which our mind does not exist at all. So it is said that in deep sleep our mind has subsided and remains in a dormant or seed-like condition, which is then called by various names such as the Karana Sharira or causal body and the Anandamaya Kosha, etc. These two terms therefore denote something that do not actually exist or even seem to exist while we are asleep, but that seems to exist only from the perspective of our mind in the waking state. So, from the point of view of our experience, deep sleep is simply the presence of awareness without the appearance of mind. There is no experience of a dark, blank nothingness. Rather, there is only the experience of itself, which means only the presence or being of itself. This is neither deep, dark, blank, or asleep. It is dimensionless, present, luminous, alive and awake. This is our natural state. Consciousness is present, but it is not manifest because the mind is not functioning or not manifesting consciousness. That's all. What we actually experience in deep sleep is only our non-dual consciousness of our own essential being, I am. So as such, deep sleep is a state devoid of any form of relativity or finitude. What makes deep sleep appear to be a relative and therefore finite state is a rising of our mind in the two truly relative and finite states of waking and dream. Otherwise, we are always in deep sleep. The only difference between deep sleep and pure consciousness from the waking state perspective is that pure consciousness is eternal and immutable, whereas we seem to come out of deep sleep. However, this difference is not real because it's only from the perspective of the ego in waking state that we seem to have come out of deep sleep. If we investigate ourselves keenly enough, we will find that we have never come out of deep sleep, and that deep sleep is therefore our only state and the one real state, otherwise known as pure consciousness, the substrate. If we raise two walls in a vast open space, the open space will appear to be divided into three confined spaces. Similarly, when our mind imagines the existence of two different types of body, gross and subtle, the infinite space of our true and absolute self-conscious being appears to be divided into three separate finite states, which we call waking, dream, and sleep. If waking is movie number 1 and a dream is movie number 2, then deep sleep is the screen. All that exists and is experienced in deep sleep is pure consciousness, which is what we actually are. But after rising from the sleep as this ego in the waking state, it seems to us that in deep sleep we did not know what we actually are. So from our perspective as this ego, it seems that we were self-ignorant even in sleep. However, What did not know our actual self in deep sleep was only our ego. But the reason it did not know our actual self in deep sleep was that it did not exist then. So, since what we experienced in deep sleep is therefore causal body, ignorance, bliss, only in the view of our ego in the waking or dream. All the three bodies actually appear together in the waking state only and disappear together in deep sleep. In reality, the state that we now call deep sleep is our true, natural, infinite, and absolute state of pure self consciousness. However, so long as we feel ourselves to be this relative and finite consciousness that we call our mind, we cannot know deep sleep as it really is. That is, since we do not experience our essential self consciousness, I am, in its true or pure form in our present waking state, from the perspective of this waking state, we cannot recognize the fact that we did experience our self consciousness, I am, in its true or pure form in deep sleep. The reason why deep sleep seems to most of us to be a state of or divide of self consciousness is that we are so habituated in waking and dream to mistakenly confusing our awareness of agents like body, mind, and world to be our real self consciousness, that the absence of any awareness of agents in sleep seems to us to be an absence of self consciousness. And because this body and mind, which now seem to be ourselves, do not exist in sleep, it seems to us now that we are not aware of ourselves in sleep. Whereas what we are actually not aware of in sleep was any of these phenomena, world, that we mistake to be ourselves in waking and dream, which is body mind. Therefore, in order to discover what we really experience in deep sleep, we must know, experience our fundamental self consciousness, I am, in its true, pure form in our present waking state. That's it. In order to discover what we really experienced in deep sleep, we must know, experience our fundamental self consciousness, I am, in its true, pure form in our present waking state. So we must distinguish between the mere absence of duality in deep sleep and the knowledge of absence of duality. A sage, a jnani, will have this knowledge of the absence of duality even in the waking state. That's the difference. Then only there is realization. Then only there is liberation. Two common but important questions on deep sleep. 1. Are you aware during deep sleep? Yes. You are awareness, and awareness can never not exist, can never be unaware. Deep sleep is neither an action nor an inaction. There is no ego mind in sleeping, so there can never be a sleeper. Therefore, nobody sleeps. The deep sleep is not. Deep sleep is a non-action. What is non-action? Well, action is an act with a doership, karma. Inaction is an egoless action, vikarma. Non-action is action where things just happen automatically, with or without an ego, akarma. Breathing is a good example of non-action. And where do you think God is? In non-action. A common man's realm is action. A sage's or jnani's realm is inaction and God's realm is non-action. So is deep sleep, a non-action which is God or pure consciousness. Second question, does mind remember that you slept soundly in deep sleep? No. Mind is not there in deep sleep. So how can it remember? From the perspective of the waking state, deep sleep appears as a vague memory of a blank nothingness, which apparently lasts for an undetermined period of time. This memory, like all other memories, comes in the form of a thought, which takes place in the now. The deep sleep to which the memorizing thought refers is utterly non-existent at the time of the occurrence of the memorizing thought. In other words, the only evidence in the waking state for the existence of an experience called deep sleep comes in the form of a thought. Thought first imagines deep sleep, and in order to conceive of it in its own language of apparent objectivity, it superimposes onto it the qualities of blankness and duration, because a finite mind can never grasp, understand the infinite consciousness which has no objective qualities. This is the work of the cunning mind to claim that it had the experience of sound sleep. Mind is an impostor. In conclusion, in our search for the absolute reality, deep sleep is in fact the most important of our three states of mind because it is the only state in which we experience our fundamental knowledge, our essential self-consciousness, I am, devoid of any other knowledge. Not only does deep sleep provide us with the indisputable evidence of the fact that our essential nature is only our non-dual self-consciousness, our pure consciousness of our own being I am, but it also provides us with the important clue we require in the waking state in order to practice self-investigation effectively. Deep sleep analysis, coming from two different perspectives, is one of the best tools available for self-inquiry. It has an immense value in spirituality. Deep sleep is not nothing. It is completely filled with pure consciousness. You will be wise to use this tool. Good luck. Thank you.